Hey guys, back again with some Modern on Budget, and today we're going to revisit another archetype, but this time we're going to take more of a traditional approach. There are going to still be some card inclusions in here that I might get some backlash for from burn players, but I do think that this is really where we're going to want to be for this version of the deck, for what is in the meta, for what we're going to be going up against. And so historically, Burn has had a bit of an issue with the board presence because what they try to do is they try to speed through the game so fast that they don't have a way to deal with really a late game, so they're really trying to just top deck at that point. And so when we get to that point, I'll explain my decisions. We're going to start off with our creatures. We have I'm so happy we fit in the standard 12. So we have Goblin Guide as a 2/2 haste for 1 mana. Whenever it attacks, defending player reveals top card of their deck. If it's a land, they draw it. Now, I love that this card shows us what our opponent is playing, but it does have the possibility of drawing them a land. That being said, it is 2 damage for 1 mana, and it can be very fast, and if your opponent's not playing a quick deck, you can just keep going and going and going. And then Monster Swift Spear, it's in here. It was in the other version as well. It's amazing. It's a 1/2 for 1 mana, haste prowess. So you're going to start off by turn 1 having that, and then turn 2 being able to pump it up. So it's just very powerful, and you can pump it up at instant speed with all the instants in your deck. It's very strong across the board. If you pick this up, it will be played in other decks. Eidolon of the Great Revel is a 2-drop 2/2. Whenever a player casts a spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, it deals 2 damage to that player. This was something we were not able to afford in the other version of the deck, but I think is very strong. And though it sounds very counterintuitive, your opponent does not have as many burn spells as you unless they're playing burn. So likelihood is that this is damaging them far more often than it's damaging you. Next up is the more questionable choice if you're already a burn player, is Magmatic Channeler. Now, Magmatic Channeler is a 2 mana 1/3, and quite often you're wanting to just play as many burn spells as possible. So when I say it's traditional burn, I don't know why these ads keep popping up. Even though you're playing traditional burn, even though I claim it's traditional burn, it's meant to be built to be a bit stronger against our current meta. Now, Magmatic Channeler is going to be able to be a 1/3 way to discard a card, exile top 2 cards of your deck, so kind of like a mini light up the stage, but also it'll eventually scale into a 4/4, so it's good in the early game, and as you're running out of cards, you can keep refilling your hand. But it's also something that's going to turn into a 4/4 when the rest of your deck is like a 2/2, 1/2, 2/2. And the 1/2 can get pumped up, but not really quite up to a 4/4, especially in the later game. So having that Channeler out on the board is going to be very nice. It's going to be very strong. So even though you might not agree with it if you are a burn player, it is a very strong card, and I would highly recommend it even outside of budget. It's seeing tons of play elsewhere as well. Next up is the second questionable pick in the deck, and it's Forked Bolt. And you'll see we have 2 in the main, 2 in the side. And I know that I might get people saying, oh, that's not a bolt, it's a bad card. But I'm telling you, 1 mana, deal 2 damage divided. That's not bad with all the one toughness in our format right now, especially in the Death and Taxes lists or the Talia lists, or even the Collected Company lists. You can just Forked Bolt and kill their creatures. Now, Collected Company is instant speed, so it's harder to play around. But Forked Bolt can hit so many things, and also it can just hit a 1 toughness, and then do the other 1 damage to your opponent to proc Spectacle for our Skewer the Critics and Light Up Stage, which we'll talk about in a moment. Next up is Lava Spike, which deals 3 damage to target player or planeswalker, and it's just a 1 mana 3 damage bolt. It's very good in the deck. It costs more than the namesake. Well, I guess it's not the namesake of the deck, but the card everybody talks about, which is Lightning Bolt, which is 1 mana 3 damage at instant speed. This is sorcery. Instant speed, deal 3 damage to any target. Now this is I want to say it's the strongest card in the deck. It's definitely the strongest spell in the deck for what it costs. But I love this card so much. This is probably the card that will transfer over to your other decks more than any other card in your deck, possibly even Mountain. This card is so used in Modern. I guess it's only this low because of how much it's been printed. Next up is Skullcrack. 2 mana, players can't gain life this turn, damage can't be prevented, and it deals 3 damage to target player. You really don't want to get stung by life gain, and you don't want them to prevent your damage. You are going to be dealing 3 damage to target player, so it's a 2 mana instant speed lava spike, but it's a very strong against people who are trying to gain some life. And it's just a very nice card to have in here. It slots in fairly nicely in our curve. Next up is Light Up the Stage. Why? Sorry. Light Up the Stage, which is exile top 2 cards of your deck, and then until your next turn, you may play those cards. So it's kind of like an enhanced Magmatic Channeler ability. And it's a 3-drop, or you can cast it for a single red if your opponent's lost life this turn, which could be fetch lands, or it could be just Forked Bolt. You attacked. I really like Forked Bolt because it allows you to ping your opponent and possibly a creature, and then lets you Spectacle. Though you could just say, oh, but I can just use a normal bolt, which valid, but I like Forked Bolt, especially in our current meta. And then it says exile. I already said what it does, but basically, once you're running out of cards, or maybe you're trying to keep a fuel or hit that second land because you kept a really greedy 1-lander, then that allows you to hit your cards. And it says play, so you can play lands off of it. Where I believe Channeler says, nope, Channeler says play as well. So definitely a better include than I actually originally thought. I thought it's a cast, but play makes it even better. So, next up is Rift Bolt, which is another 3-drop that suspends for 1. So this version of the deck is not as weak to Chalice of the Void, since you are running a bunch of 2 or 3 drops in the deck. You still are running a ton of 1-drops, which really sets you back, but it's very nice because you are able to run those off-curve spells because they just hit your curve anyway. If you play this with Swift Spear, though, keep in mind, you won't get the cast trigger when you suspend it. You'll get the cast trigger when the last time counter gets removed and you cast Rift Bolt the next turn. So make sure that you time that properly with Monastery Swift Spear. Next up is Skewer the Critics, which is a 3-drop bolt, deals it to any target, sorcery speed for Spectacle, where it's a single mana. Very nice card. I love this card. And I'm really happy that we got this. I got it in Modern way before Skewer the Critics got printed, and that was like the last time I played Burn. But Skewer the Critics makes mono red Burn much more viable. You no longer have to run Spark Elemental. You no longer have to run Hellspark Elemental. You don't have to run any of those janky creatures that are 1-drop swinging, and it's like a 3/1 that you sack at the beginning of your end step. You can just play Skewer. Anyway, we have 18 mountains, very simple. If you want to mess around with the mountains, keep it at 18 for this list. You don't really have anything that you need fetch lands for. If you add fetch lands, great. But this is very bare bones. It's just what you need to play Burn, and we came out on top with 96.89 as our price, and I really like it. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. It's a very nice. Our sideboard has Forked Bolt, which is 1 mana, deal 2 divided. I already talked about that. Soul Guided Lantern for Graveyard Hate. Also, I don't know. I like this card, but I also like Relic. I go back and forth between which I like more. This doesn't exile our own graveyard, though, for cards like Magmatic Channeler that care about having instant sorceries in our graveyard. Roiling Vortex is something that you're going to want to bring in against... you're going to want to bring this in against Control, against Tybalt's Trickery, because they're not spending mana to cast that Tybalt's Trickery or that Emrakul. So if they do that, they lose 10 life. And honestly, this deck might be able to outspeed the Tybalt's Trickery if they do this. So, like, let's say you turn 1 Goblin Guide, swing in, turn 2 Roiling Vortex, swing in, and at that point they are at, what, 16, and then you can cast this, and then maybe they shock themselves, or maybe they have to delay themselves because they know that this could get very close to killing them, but then they just die very quickly because they're not casting those. It's not a perfect solution, but it's probably the best we're going to get in a mono red burn deck. And it's playable in other matchups as well. Smash Smithereens, destroy target artifact, deals 3 damage to its artifact's controller. Basically, any deck that has pesky artifacts, especially Chalice of the Void or Ensnaring Bridge. Leyline and Combustion is a very interesting inclusion here. I have it here as a way of... We're probably going to be targeted a lot with, like, Thoughtseize Thoughtseize is kind of bad against us because they lose life anyway. But discard is very effective against burn. Removal is very effective against burn. A lot of things are very strong, but they target us. And so if we do this, it's just going to make it even harder for our opponent to say, yeah, I want to target them with a discard spell. Because our burn spell that deals 3 damage for 1 or 2 mana is now just going to deal 2 damage just from us targeting them, even if we have to discard it. Anyway, that's the list. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the fringe inclusions of Chandler, Bolt, and Leyline. Anyway, I really like the deck, and it's working really well for me. And let me know what you think of the deck. If you try it out, leave your results below, and I will see you next time.